Hi, Jillian. Well, look, this is a volatile situation, potentially dangerous situation right now in Venezuela. You've got two sides. The opposition leader, Juan Guaido, who the United States and some 50 other nations recognize as the president of Venezuela, urging the masses, all of these people, to come out and to help get these humanitarian aid trucks from Colombia into Venezuela. The opposition believes that with thousands and, in fact, millions of people on their side, the Maduro regime, that is Nicolas Maduro, the president, and his thugs will not hurt them and will allow for these humanitarian trucks filled with food, medicine, and even diapers to come in to Venezuela. Thus far, we have seen one truck enter from Brazil into Venezuela with international aid, not specifically U.S. humanitarian aid, but Brazilian aid. This is important because we saw yesterday 2 people were killed on the Venezuela-Brazil border. We now know Juan Guaido, the opposition leader, tweeted that the first humanitarian truck filled with aid has made its way past the Brazilian-Venezuela border. Guaido has been tweeting all morning, and he just released a video moments ago, a message to the Chavistas, those who are for Maduro, and this is what he had to tell them. Take a listen. I'm going to translate for you. He said this, quote, "This is a struggle for all Venezuelans. The time is now. We ask all Chavistas to side with the Constitution. Today, Venezuela needs you. Venezuela needs all of us united. We call on you to defend and protect our people. Friends, Chavistas, the time is now." Juan Guaido sending a message to those who are supportive of the socialist regime, the Maduro regime, letting them know that we need you to stand with us. There is a sense of momentum. You can obviously see the people, but there has also been some violence this morning already. We saw a red bus in the city of Llorinha, Venezuela, on the inside. Juan Guaido was in Colombia last night for a Live Aid concert, which Richard Branson, the billionaire, put on with some 30 Latin music artists. He made his way into Colombia to raise $100 million, and right now he's been on the border all morning, and he was been on these humanitarian trucks and urging people to stand by them as they try to push these trucks in. Again, you can understand why this is a volatile situation, because President Maduro and his regime is saying that these humanitarian aid trucks are nothing but a farce. They're warning that they're going to not allow these trucks in because they believe it is a Trojan horse of sorts, and that the United States is just trying to interfere and to try to overthrow the regime. So that is what has been going on all morning. The big question now, Leland and Jillian, is really where the military is going to stand. We've seen video of 3 National Guardsmen on the bridges between Colombia and Venezuela defect from Venezuela to the side of the opposition. It is the hope of the opposition that more National Guardsmen in Venezuela and more members of the military will come towards the side of the opposition and help these humanitarian aid trucks finally make their way into Venezuela. Some 220 tons of aid in Cucuta, Colombia right now. And you can see on your screen here, this is Llorinha, Venezuela. The folks there are gathering, and we'll keep an eye on it all day, guys.
Brian, all this going on as the top military brass in Venezuela continue to ponder whether they should switch sides and throw their support behind opposition leader Juan Guaido and away from Maduro.
All right,
that's exactly right.
All right,
Thanks, Brian.
Brian Yennis following this story. With that, we bring in Florida Republican Congressman, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and dare I say an expert also on South America, Francis Rooney, joining us from his home district in South Florida. Congressman, good to see you, sir. You watch these pictures and then you zoom out and you realize that there are dozens of countries, perhaps around the world, who face the same type of humanitarian crisis Venezuela does. At least a dozen or more countries with strongman dictators like Nicolas Maduro who engage in horrific tactics against their own people. Why is what we're seeing now so important to Americans, no matter where you live?
Well, first of all, Venezuela has been a strong ally of the United States for many years, certainly until Chavez took over in 1998. And they're a very strong strategic partner because of their huge petroleum reserves. So we have a very clear and present.
You say it's at a tipping point. There are reports now that Cuban mercenaries and/or Cuban military have now taken the place of some of Maduro's closest presidential guards, and at least some of them are running the show. Also reports of the Russians having advisors there in Venezuela. If they want to fight this thing out and decide not to go quietly, what are the options for the United Venezuela opposition? Juan Guaido saying that as well. There are some American politicians, though, who disagree with you, sir. Among them, 2020 hopeful Bernie Sanders. Take a listen to what he has to say. We'll get your reaction.
Do you consider Juan Guaido the legitimate president of Venezuela?
No, I think what has to happen right now, I think there are serious questions about the recent election. There are many people who feel it was a fraudulent election.
Is Nicolás Maduro a dictator, Senator, for you? And should he go?
All right, I think clearly he has been very, very abusive. That is a decision of the Venezuelan people.
Why is he wrong?
Wow, it doesn't get any better than that. This socialist is siding with Maduro against the rest of his own country and the people of Venezuela, and he wants to be president.
Is there a lesson to be learned in terms of what has happened in Venezuela as we watch now these throngs of people with Venezuelan flags? Many, as you note, are hungry and sick, without food and without medicine. Is there a parallel between the policies that Maduro and Chavez promised and the policies that some of the Democratic 2020 hopefuls are promising as well?
Well, I think we've seen all around the world for many years that socialism and autocracy do not work. That democracy and freedom and free enterprise provide a lot better environment for people to flourish and raise their families and provide for them. So it's really, to me, unsettling to see Americans calling for socialism.
All right, Congressman Rooney, we appreciate you being with us. Obviously, this is something we're going to watch the next couple of hours, next couple of days, and we'll have you back to talk about it, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Leland. Have a great day.
You too, sir. Jillian?
President Trump's now facing several legal and legislative challenges to his national emergency declaration on the southern border. Now, even some Republicans joining their Democratic counterparts in opposing his declaration. Garrett Tenney joins us with just how many Republicans are set to jump ship and support the Democrats' resolution.
Yeah, Democrats are vowing to fight the president on this everywhere they can, in Congress, in the courts, as well as through the court of public opinion. Now, on Tuesday, the House will vote on what's known as a resolution of disapproval, which would allow Congress to end the national emergency status. Democrats and a number of Republicans argue there is no real emergency that justifies the president's declaration. On Friday in Laredo, Texas, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said it's Congress's constitutional responsibility to block it.
We will be fighting him on this usurping of power, of violating the Constitution of the United States in the Congress, in the courts, and with the American people. So this is a path I would not recommend he go down. I don't expect him to sign it, but I do expect us to send it.
The legislation is expected to sail through the Democratic-controlled House. In the Senate, it's expected to be a bit more of a challenge. Democrats need at least 4 Republicans to support it. So far, only Susan Collins of Maine has said she'll vote for it. But a handful of others have also expressed concern over the precedent that this use of emergency powers could set. In the Oval Office Friday, President Trump was confident, though, that Republicans will support his move. And even if they don't, he said there is no way that he would sign it.
Oh, I think they'll stick. Yeah, everybody knows we need border security. We need a wall. I think it's a very bad subject for the Democrats. We need a wall. Will I veto it? 100%. 100%. And I don't think it survives a veto. We have too many smart people that want border security, so I can't imagine it could survive a veto, but I will veto it, yes.
And that would be the first veto of President Trump's administration, and there is not a whole lot of optimism that Congress can muster up the 2/3 votes necessary to override it. But to be clear, this is just the first of many fights in this battle. Jillian?
And don't underestimate the wrath of Congress when they feel that they have been circumvented by the president.
Yeah.
Garrett, thank you.
Court challenges as well. And a Fox News alert as we await a court hearing for R. Kelly. The famed R&B singer will face an Illinois judge today on 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse involving 4 victims, at least 3 of which, according to police, were underage. Matt Finn joining us now from the Windy City outside what looks like a courtroom of sorts. Matt, what do we expect today?
Well, Leland, in just a few hours, R. Kelly will stand before the same judge and in the exact same courtroom where Actor Jussie Smollett just appeared almost exactly 48 hours ago. The Cook County State's attorney has asked that R. Kelly not be released on bond today. So one of the big questions heading into this hearing is whether the judge will hand down a bond and if R. Kelly's team will have enough cash on hand to bail him out today. R. Kelly turned himself in to Chicago police last night. The indictment against him goes into graphic detail about the alleged sexual abuse by 4 women, 3 of which alleged they were underage at the time. Here is R. Kelly's attorney responding to these charges.
Unfortunately, the state's attorney now succumbed to public pressure, from grandstanders like Michael Avenatti and Gloria Allred, and brought these charges. Mr. Kelly is strong. He's got a lot of support, and he's going to be vindicated on all these charges.
R. Kelly was recently thrust back into the spotlight for sexual abuse allegations by a Lifetime documentary that profiles many underage girls who allege sexual abuse against the singer. Here is one woman who claims R. Kelly coerced her into a sexual assault as a minor.
I was young and I was starstruck. However, now that I'm an adult, I feel hurt by what he did to me when I was only 16 years old and under the influence of alcohol and marijuana, which was provided to me at this after party.
If convicted, R. Kelly faces 3 to 7 years on each of the 10 counts against him. And celebrity attorney Michael Avenatti claims that he has a video that depicts R. Kelly involved in a sexual act with a girl who is 14 years old. Leland, Jillian.
Noteworthy, we haven't seen Avenatti make good on that claim yet, though. Matt Finn outside the courtroom in Chicago. Matt, back to you as the court proceeding gets underway. Thank you, sir.
Coming up, the stakes could not be higher. President Trump's preparing for his second formal trip overseas to meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Plus, just a few weeks after the Super Bowl, the billionaire owner of the New England Patriots now faces charges of soliciting a prostitute at a Florida massage parlor. And rescue from the rapids, a young couple trying and failing to cross floodwaters in Arizona. They need a helping hand.
A young couple trapped by raging floodwaters in Arizona, as you can see, took a team of rescuers to get them out. There was a 911 call that came in from the couple as they tried to cross the creek and got stuck in the middle. We have seen this play out so many times. Thankfully, a happy ending here. There is major flooding throughout Arizona now after 3 days of heavy rain.
President Trump's about to travel overseas to meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un for the second time this week in Hanoi, Vietnam. This despite the fact that the first round of nuclear talks produced no tangible progress on denuclearization. Joining me to preview the president's agenda for this trip is President Trump's former National Security Council Chief of Staff, Fred Flight. So, Fred, you are fresh off a meeting just a few days ago with the president in Palm Beach, where you said his outlook for the summit is largely optimistic. That's great. But what about the fact that so many of his own advisors, his national security advisors, seem to be saying they're not at all sure that this is the right moment for this second summit?
Well, the president was very optimistic. He's proud of his achievements in the relationship he's built with leader Kim. He said that the halt in the nuclear and missile tests is a big step forward. And he got some unexpected support in an article that was published in the Washington Post this week by Dr. Sig Hecker. He is a former director of Los Alamos National Laboratory, doesn't like Republicans or this administration, and he said very clearly that what the president has done in stopping nuclear missile tests has set back these dangerous programs. There's debate right now what will be agreed to at the Vietnam.
Walks away from this, his second meeting, traveling overseas to meet with Kim. As you know, the president's time is a precious commodity. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of staff time to put together these trips. You used to work on them, so you know. If he doesn't walk out of there with some document that he can show the world that says, look, they've agreed to this, this, and this, how bad is it going to be for him?
Well, I think we're close to some pretty significant achievements at this summit, probably inspections of a nuclear site and a missile test site. My expectation is that
you think they might agree to inspections face to face?
I think we're close to getting an agreement on that, and that would be a significant step forward. Now, if we could get an agreement to inspect the Yongbyon nuclear site or shutting down the Yongbyon, which is also being discussed, that would be huge. I don't know if we're going to get that far at this summit, but you know, when I hear people criticizing where we are, they have to think about where were we when this administration began, when the North Koreans were preparing to test ICBMs that could hit the east coast of the United States. These are offensive weapons, and the president stopped the tests of them. This is big.
The president puts a lot of stock in his own interpersonal relationship with Kim, and not just Kim, all world leaders. You know, he tends to evaluate the strength of the bilateral relationship based on his face-to-face interactions with the leaders. In this case, do you trust that? Do you trust that whatever Kim says to him at this summit is something that will translate into real output?
Well, the president has thrown out the traditional diplomatic rule book on how to deal in situations like this, where all these summits, what's announced by the leaders is pre-cooked. Nothing is really negotiated at the summit, and the interpersonal relations play a very small role here. The president got Leader Kim out of his backward socialist cocoon in Pyongyang and brought him to Singapore, showed him a movie of what a denuclearized North Korea could look like and what good relations with the U.S. could look like. And I think he's using this relationship to try to move the ball forward. And so far, I think that he's achieved something significant.
I want to show you the latest Fox News polling on this. 41% of Americans disapprove of how President Trump is managing North Korea, and 46% approve, so a 5-point margin there. How much of the summit is sort of a bid to, you know, move the numbers further in the president's favor? Is he as focused on the optics here and public approval as he normally is on domestic issues?
The president is not doing this for his approval ratings. He's doing it because he thinks it's the right thing to do, and he's dealing with a significant threat to our national security. This is one of the few things Barack Obama told the president personally could have led to a war during the Obama administration. I mean, the president has said this, and the president's position has been very clear.
To be fair, President Trump, reporting says that. President Obama's team has denied that he ever said that.
There's nothing that President Trump has said that the Obama people won't contradict. So I guess we'll never know what was said in the car driving up to the inauguration. But I think there's been some significant achievements here, and the American people see it. There's many Democrats who have to concede that the president has achieve something significant, although there's a long way to go in denuclearization.
Yeah. Well, Fred, thank you as always for providing your insight. We learn something from you every time. We appreciate it.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Much more on President Trump's meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un tomorrow. On Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace will be live with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Check your local listings for the time and channel. And a news special, Ed Henry will cover the Trump-Kim meeting live from Vietnam. That's tomorrow, 8 to 9 Eastern Time.
Crackdown on sex trafficking in Florida ends with charges against the billionaire owner of the New England Patriots. What Robert Kraft has to say, and Empire actor Jussie Smollett denying charges he made up a hate crime despite a mountain of evidence from police. We're going to talk to a Chicago talk radio host about why so many fell for the hoax.
As we learn more, it certainly seems like the only person to blame in this case is Smollett. And it's another sad example of people so quick to want to attack and come after this president.
States, the military, John Bolton writes, has a chance to protect and assist the people of Venezuela, not Maduro and a band of thieves. Choose the road of democracy.
Robert Kraft, owner of the Super Bowl winning New England Patriots, faces charges now for his involvement in a prostitution ring out of Florida, where he's allegedly part of an ongoing sex trafficking operation. Jackie Heinrich has more on the charges he faces and the potential for jail time. Jackie?
Well, Jillian, police planted cameras in massage parlors along the Florida coast as part of the sting. They say they have video of Kraft in the act on 2 occasions. The 77-year-old billionaire is one of 25 people charged in a crackdown on sex trafficking that took more than 8 months. According to investigators, the women were working in sexual servitude, where patrons paid between $59 and $79 for services. Kraft is accused of paying for sex at the Orchids of Asia spa last month. The Patriots franchise owner currently faces 2 counts of soliciting someone to commit prostitution, but the crime is a second-degree misdemeanor, so it's unlikely he will be formally arrested. In Palm Beach County, misdemeanors are served through a summons in the mail, and if you live out of state, there will be a warrant for your arrest, but your attorney can appear in court for you. A spokesperson for Kraft released a statement saying, "We categorically deny that Mr. Kraft engaged in any illegal activity. Because it is a judicial matter, we will not be commenting any further." And the NFL said it was aware and monitoring the developments, but Patriots fans, including the president, are withholding judgment until the facts all come out.
What about the charges against Bob Kraft? He's a friend of yours.
Well, it's very sad. I was very surprised to see it. He's proclaimed his innocence totally, but I'm very surprised to see it.
The 2 female owners of the spa were also charged. So far, 10 spas have been closed and more than 100 patrons linked to the investigation have been named. Investigators said they do expect more charges to come down. Jillian.
So the big question now is, who are the other individuals on that list? Jackie, keep us posted. Thank you.
Kraft's attorneys denying the charges. Jussie Smollett's attorneys, the Empire actor, also denying felony charges against him for allegedly making up a racially charged attack in Chicago. With that, we bring in Michael Coolidge from Chicago of Talk Radio fame there. Good to see you, sir. Yes. It's amazing that for weeks the media could not wait to talk about the Jussie Smollett alleged attack, who the attackers might be, what this said about the country, and now 48 hours after the police declared a hoax, it's disappeared.
Yeah, and what's so unfortunate about it is that the people that Jussie Smollett attempted to attack here, when you really boil it down, were people that live in Red County, America. Non-big city America. He explicitly said that when Robin Roberts asked him, why were you attacked, Jussie? And he said, because he comes down really hard on Donald Trump. And this idea that, you know, in MAGA country, where I happen to live, by the way, I don't live in Chicago. I live an hour and a half outside of it in small town America, Red County America, where, yes, we proudly love our communities. We proudly go to church. We proudly, many of us are Republican. And, yes, a lot of us voted for Donald Trump in the last election. But there's not roving bands of us looking out for gay black people to beat up.
Yeah.
And the fact that so many people believe this initially, that to me is the biggest shock.
I guess the bigger question, though, is, from a conversation standpoint in Chicago, are people talking about what it means and how to prevent these runaway beliefs in made-up events from happening again? Or is there a sort of, oh, well, maybe the next one will be real, so it's okay for us to run away with speculation rather than waiting for evidence?
I think it's more the latter. Many people is an outrage, and people where I live are so sick of it, frankly.
Yeah, you can imagine why they'd be sick of being accused of something that they didn't do, or people that of like minds didn't do. You talk about minorities being attacked or focused on. Being a conservative on the University of California, Berkeley's campus is certainly a minority position. This is video that came from Turning Point USA, a campus.
Hacks that have been making national news in the past, big GoFundMe campaign set up for a guy who has the F word put on his cake who's gay. Turns out he wrote it. A waitress in New York says that there was something anti-gay in a receipt. Turns out she wrote it, but garnered, tens of thousands of things. But there's never, the reporters never, or so many of the reporters, a lot of reporters don't look for that verifying evidence, an eyewitness, video, anything. They just make it national news because, well, yeah, this is America 2019, supposedly. But then here we have something like this where there's hard evidence of a guy being punched in the face simply for what he believes in, nothing more. He wasn't instigating anything. He was punched in the face because of what he believed in and happened to be a right-of-center conservative. And, yeah, there's crickets all over national news on it, except for here.
Well, and we wait to see what charges will be brought against the alleged attacker, the attacker in the videotape. Berkeley police had put out a picture of him as well. We appreciate your time, Sir Michael. Good to see you as always, and safe drive back to that small town in Illinois.
Make America great a country. Yes, Rochelle, Illinois, proudly.
Well, it's a good town. Enjoy it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Look at including some serious questions about what happened with the special counsel's sentencing memo on Paul Manafort. David Spunt looking into that for us this afternoon. Hi, David.
Hey, Leland. Well, listen, that special counsel Mueller had until midnight last night to file that sentencing memo for Paul Manafort. Never showed up as filed on the federal court website, but that doesn't mean it wasn't filed. It's possible it was filed under seal and will be released, but redacted. Now, this news about Manafort comes as an official with the Justice Department told Fox News that it's not going to happen next week. We don't know if it could be the week after. Court documents allege that Manafort shared polling data with an associate who authorities argue has ties to the Russian intelligence community. Back in September, Manafort pled guilty to 2 counts of conspiracy related to his lobbying work in Ukraine as part of a plea agreement. Mueller's team originally planned to offer Manafort some leniency. That all went out the window when a judge found that Manafort lied to investigators after agreeing to cooperate with them. Mueller will return his report to Attorney General Bill Barr. President Trump was asked about this yesterday.
You know why I won the race? Because I was a better candidate than she was, and had nothing to do with Russia. And everybody knows it's a hoax. It's one of the greatest hoaxes ever perpetrated on this country. So I look forward to seeing the report. If it's an honest report, it will say that. If it's not an honest report, it won't.
Important to point out, this is not the only case on Manafort's plate. On March 8th. Just a few weeks, Manafort will be sentenced in a Virginia case involving tax and bank fraud. Now, Bloomberg News is reporting similar charges could be filed by New York District Attorney Cy Vance if Manafort would receive a pardon from President Trump. Now, Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut tweeted, quote, if Manafort lied to the special counsel to secure a pardon from Trump, that decision was ill-conceived. State charges for the same crimes are pardon proof. Trump can't save him from those. Vance's office has no comment on the Bloomberg report. The president has not indicated on the record that he would even consider pardoning Paul Manafort. Leland.
Yeah, some questions about whether that would result in double jeopardy claims. David Spunt here in D.C. David, thanks. Jillian's got a lot more on this.
Joining us now to provide more insight on the Mueller probe is former Assistant Director of the FBI, Mark Morgan. So, Mark, you work directly for Special